Hi friend, welcome back to Casa Refined. I'm Jorge. I've missed you, but guess what? Today's video is very special. I have an incredible coffee table that I recently found on Facebook Marketplace, and I got it for $50. $50 is an insanely good price, especially considering the fact that this is mostly solid oak. Not fully solid, but mostly solid oak. It's heavy, it's sturdy. It's one of those tables that doesn't move around when you bump into it. So design-wise, I think it's gonna work. Also, perfectly for my new living room iteration that I'm going for, I guess. I think it's just something earthy, something that grounds the space and something warm. But I don't want it to feel so modern, but not so rustic. Something more kind of in the middle. I'm curious to know how old this coffee table is because it's in pretty great condition with some minor damage here and there, but overall it's pretty cosmetic and I think it'll go away once I strip this down to the natural wood. To do so, I will be using citrus strip, and of course safety is always important. Maybe I'm going overboard here, but I'm taking extra precautions and working in a well ventilated area. One thing that's important here is that I don't want this to dry out, so I'm working, well, I could work in sections, but I'm just going to go for it and cover the entire coffee table, but I'm just trying my best to work fast and not let this fully dry. I do like the fact that this is sort of like a gel consistency so that I can apply it to vertical surfaces and it won't droop down. I believe the instructions say that this can start working in as little as 30 minutes, but I like to leave this overnight, so I will be covering it with a plastic drop cloth so that it doesn't dry out on me and just let it do its thing. It is the following day and it is finally time to remove all the gunk. Honestly, it's not my favorite part of this process, but it needs to be done. So instructions I think recommend to use a plastic putty knife so that it doesn't scratch the surface. I will be using probably a metal one. It's not going to matter in this case. I have something special planned for this table, so let's remove all the gunk and dispose of it. This is the part of the project where I contemplate my decision. Why? Jorge, why did you get yourself in this mess? Look at this. Ugh, gunky stuff everywhere. It's a mess. I can't get it off. Oh my gosh, I am not doing this ever again. But you know what? I probably will. It's not my favorite part of the process, but it needs to be done. And it seems like it's working. Now that I managed to remove most of the gunk off, it's time to give it a good cleaning. So I'm using some paint stripper after wash. This is going to remove any of that remaining sticky residue. So I will be using a couple of rags or microfiber cloths in this case. But you know what? It's starting to take shape, so I'm feeling optimistic. Depending on how much paint or varnish is on the surface, it might require another coat of paint stripper, but in this case, I think I will manage to get away with just one, so I will set this aside to dry before doing some sanding. It's kind of interesting right now. It looks very, very bad in terms of the color, but I think it'll work out. As you can see, there are some areas here and there that still has some of that varnish. It's not much though, and I think I'll be able to get most of that off with some sanding. So I'm going to start off with some heavier grit sandpaper and work my way up until something finer so that it gets a nice smooth finish. You know what? I treated myself and upgraded my orbital sander. I got this one. This one is a wireless one, so no more cables in the way. Now that it's nice and sanded, it's time to do something rather controversial, and that is to scratch the living crap out of this table. So one thing that I'm trying to mimic is sort of that nice aged antique wood. When wood starts to dry, it forms these little lines, the grain of the wood, if you will. So I'm trying to somewhat mimic it with the screwdriver and scratch the surface. I'm not gonna lie, I'm very nervous as I'm doing this. In fact, I feel like I'm committing a crime. Someone's gonna come take me. But you know what? I am also feeling optimistic, and I think it's gonna work out. Let's just see. One thing I realized after scratching the surface is that sort of brought up some of the splinters, so I'm just taking my orbital sander and giving it a quick sanding, and then I'm taking this wire brush, going with the direction of the grain to get rid of some of those loose splinters. To be honest with you, it's already looking so good. That natural raw oak is just magnificent. But you know what? I, surprisingly, am not going to leave it exposed. I'm not going to just leave the raw wood. In fact, I think I'm going to stain it perhaps. Okay, I'm going to be honest with you. I personally love mixing different wood tones. I think it's a special way or an interesting way to make a space just feel more layered, more collected, and not so matchy-matchy. And I think making this coffee table sort of a medium wood tone is gonna be perfect. I lately have been obsessed with that sort of medium oak wood finish. I've seen this in kitchens and a lot of different spaces, and I think it's very sexy. And I think this is gonna be perfect for this coffee table. Now, there's a couple different ways that I can go about this. Of course, I could use traditional stain. I can maybe do a wood wash, but I recently found something that's kind of a hybrid of both that is going to make it a lot easier to get that desired finish that I'm going for. So I did test a couple samples to see if this is the direction that I want to take it. And I think this is going to be a great hack if you're looking for a nice medium, but rustic, not so rustic wood finish. I recently discovered this water-based stain, if you will. It sort of has a rustic wood effect. I tried a couple different colors. This is the one that I absolutely love. I will link it in the description along with everything else, but this is perfect because it's water-based, so it doesn't take forever to dry. So what I'm doing here is I'm applying it with a foam brush, letting it soak up for just a couple seconds, and then I'm taking my rag and wiping it off. I don't want this to become too dark. I want as much of that natural raw wood as I can get, but still have a bit of that warm undertone, which is what the stain is doing for me. This color is so beautiful, but I'm not done quite yet. I have something else that I've been working on the living room. Let me show you while we wait for this to dry. To be honest with you, the living room has been quite the challenge for me. Just figuring out what direction I want to take it in. And over the last year or so, I've struggled trying to find the perfect sofa for this space. Now, of course, the coffee table that I'm working on in this video is going to be perfect in here, but let's talk about the sofa. Now, finding the perfect sofa can be such a challenge, especially when you don't want to sacrifice comfort, but you want something beautiful. And that's one of the main things that I've had a difficulty over the last year as I've tried a couple different sofas, but I think I definitely found the one for a couple of reasons. This one checks a lot of my boxes. Number one, comfort. This is a comfortable sofa. It is firm, but not so firm that feels uncomfortable. It's firm enough where it holds its shape. And personally, I do not like having to fluff up cushions or pillows or on any of that. Since this living room also serves as the TV room, it needs to be comfortable, but also presentable at the same time, if you know what I mean. Design-wise, this is an iconic design. Originally, I guess debuted in 1970 by the Italian designer Gianfranco Frattini, if I'm pronouncing it correct. Italian designer and architect, 1970s when this debuted, and there's been a couple of replicas or reproductions rather. This is made by Eternity Modern. Eternity Modern sells good quality, excellent quality furniture and other home accessories, but mostly good quality furniture, and it's like more direct to consumers, so they cut the cost of the middleman. It was a little bit of a wait time, a couple weeks or months rather, because it's a custom made sofa, so you can just like select the fabric options. This one is the cotton velvet in the color ivory, but there's also leather and I believe like boucle and like other different fabric options. I definitely recommend getting a swatch if you're considering. There's also this lamp also from Eternity Modern. Now this might look familiar, an iconic design, originally designed in 1967 by Italian brothers Achille and Pier Giacomo Castiglioni. I hope I pronounced that right, but inspired by the character Snoopy. I love Snoopy, and I love this lamp. It's heavy, it's got that marble base, that metal lampshade, and I just love it. It's playful, and I think it works well with the sort of console situation that I have here. This is actually also originally a Facebook Marketplace find, and I stripped it to the natural wood. But anyways, I love how it looks here, and I of course will link it in the description. But again, thanks again to Eternity Modern. I will link all of these pieces in the descriptions, and please let me know if you have any questions. The dried stain color ended up being slightly darker than I intended it to be, so I took my sander, just gave it a quick sand to knock off some of the darker tones, and this is what it's looking like now. It looks perfect. I absolutely love this. Also, notice how the wood grain has become more visible. I think that wood stain really helped give it that depth and that texture that I think it needed. So I tend to favor water-based polyurethanes because they dry faster and they're not as sticky. When I applied this, I was a bit worried about the color, but once it starts to dry, it's going to become a bit more natural. I'm also very glad that I found a matte sheen version. This is going to, for me, be a better fit for a more rustic piece like this. But we're pretty much at the end of this coffee table transformation. It's not the biggest transformation in the world, but it's so much better in my opinion. So once that dried, I could not bring this inside fast enough. I had to see it in the living room. And to be honest with you, I love it. I absolutely love how this table turned out. But let me style it so we can get a better feel for this new living room version that I have, and I don't know, maybe I might update some other things, but let's just take a look and enjoy the new coffee table. Well friend, this coffee table is complete. I am so happy with how it turned out. I feel like on camera it doesn't look that much different the original, but in person, trust me, it really does. I think it just looks so nice and rustic, but that elegance of the oak I think is what works really well for this living room. Speaking of which, I'm so happy with the current sort of iteration of the living room. I feel like this is the space that I'm always struggling with, but this sofa really works well in here. It's comfortable, it's really good quality. This is gonna be like this, it's gonna stay like this for a little while because I'm really happy with it. Although I am thinking of maybe swapping out the rug. I'm thinking of something a bit more solid perhaps, so I still need to sort of play around with a new rug potentially. If you're not subscribed already, be sure you're subscribed. I have really exciting videos coming up. Actually, my next video is going to be a full studio apartment makeover that I did for a friend. You're not gonna wanna miss out. I think it might be my best makeover to this date. So thank you so much for watching. I hope that you enjoyed this video. I'll catch you in the next one. Bye. Oh, wait. Don't forget, check out my wavy cement trinket trays. Available now on CasaRefineShop.com. Handmade by yours truly with love from me, Casa, to yours. All right, bye.